Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. My name is Sally Bament, and I am the Vice President of Marketing at Juniper Networks. And today, we're going to have a discussion about Juniper's service provider strategy. And joining me today is Raj Yavatkar, Juniper's Chief Technology Officer. Raj, always a pleasure, and thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Sally. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely. So, Raj, I'm actually pretty excited about this opportunity to share our service provider strategy with all those listening in. Our service provider customers around the globe have been, quite frankly, the cornerstone and the foundation of Juniper's investment and, quite frankly, our success as well from day one. And it is something we don't take for granted at all. I know we have a lot to talk about today, including doubling down on some new areas that are going through transition, like the metro, as well as some investments in new domains. So maybe if we can get started and talk, first of all, about some of the market dynamics. So a couple of questions for you to respond to. First of all, experience of the end customer is key in today's services economy. And delivering a differentiated experience is absolutely a priority for the service providers we talk to. But we hear it's also a challenge too. Maybe if you can talk a little bit about why is that and what can they do to change that?
So I think the way I look at it is the way the internet traffic is growing. By one estimate, internet traffic is growing at 55% CAGR, which means in 5 years, we'll have 10 times more traffic than we have today. That's a tremendous growth, and that's an opportunity in market. Secondly, as people have moved workloads to cloud, their expectations have changed from service providers. And we are suggesting to our customers, service providers, different focus areas. Let me list all of them here. Let's start first with the scale. As I said, the internet traffic is growing tremendously. That creates an opportunity as well as a challenge in terms of the scale at which you have to deliver networking services and deploy networks. And you, of course, need scale with elasticity because the cloud providers have been providing elastic services, which allows you to deploy infrastructure on demand. Second focus area is automation and orchestration. And for that, the service providers need to invest in end-to-end automation, orchestration of multi-service networks. Our third focus area we suggest is integrated cloud. You have to start by thinking of cloud-native architectures because you are delivering infrastructure that's going to be in terms of either the cloud connectivity or the enterprise connectivity, or you may have your own data centers in terms of to be able to deliver cloud-like services. All of that requires you to think through the cloud-native architecture, and all of the infrastructure should be defined or designed using integrated cloud mentality. And finally, security. Security is even more important now than ever because the infrastructure you are deploying and delivering to customers is very vulnerable. So continue to focus on delivering secure infrastructure is another focus area.
Makes a huge amount of sense, Raj. And I know we're going to come back to each of those points further along in the conversation. And of course, we hear a lot about service provider revenues being relatively flat or low growth rates. But on a more optimistic front, there are opportunities as well, right? From your perspective, how can operators monetize their existing network investment, basically get more from what they have? And also find new sources of revenue?
So I think there are multiple opportunities. First of all, the space at which enterprises are going through a digital transformation creates a huge demand for enterprise services, managed services that service providers can only provide but monetize. Another big development that has happened is the growth of the 5G infrastructure. 5G infrastructure, unlike 2G, 3G, 4G, which was all about mobile connectivity, 5G is first time bringing services-oriented experience to the network by providing guaranteed low latency. All that requires slicing support. You have to be able to slice the network end-to-end basis and assign slices to different types of applications. As you do that, you offer differentiated quality of service experience to each of the slices, and that you can monetize.
Yeah, and that is a great segue, Raj, into what we're doing here at Juniper. And, we have a very interesting vantage point because we have a very big seat at the table with certainly service providers around the globe, but also some of the largest cloud providers on the planet. And of course, enterprises too, across a number of different verticals. So maybe if you could walk through what Juniper is doing to help service providers navigate through these challenges, and also, really capitalize on this digital transformation that everyone's going through right now.
Service providers are our most important customers. We have been there with them along the entire journey of the Juniper Networks. So what we are investing is really the three pillars. We call them three pillars because those are the three pillars that will really allow service providers to achieve the goals and focus areas that I mentioned earlier. First is we are delivering a scalable IP fabric. It's truly elastic and scalable and resilient, and it can go from all the way from the metro, transport, core networks, and so on, right? Secondly, we are focusing on delivering cloud-first platforms. By cloud-first, what we mean is that we think of every architecture as to be having cloud-native characteristics with both virtualization as well as cloud-native infrastructure. Finally, managed enterprise services. We are combining the services like SD-WAN, Wi-Fi access, wired access, as well as security. We offer them in a managed offering in which you get guaranteed service assurance. And those services can now be offered by the service providers to their enterprise customers while managing and monetizing them. And all these three pillars, we are really combining them by enabling some fundamental foundational technologies such as security. We don't think of security as an afterthought. We build in security right from the start so that across Scalable IP Fabric, cloud-first platform, managed services, security is built in to be threat aware, to do malware detection, as well as a classical firewall-like technology. The second enabler we are focusing on is automation. We have invested on end-to-end automation of all aspects of network lifecycle management. So I think all that, those three pillars plus two enablers together will allow our service provider customers to focus on those focus areas I mentioned earlier.
Raj, crystal clear. So three solution pillars: massively scalable IP services fabric, cloud-first platform approach, and managed business services. And threaded across all three of those, connected security and intelligent automation. Crystal clear. No, that's great. It would be great if we could sort of maybe do a bit of a click down on each of them, and let's take each one at a time. And maybe if we can start with massively scalable IP fabric.
So I think the massively scalable fabric is important because we are known for IP fabric, but what we have done now is that we are enabling customers to be able to build massively scalable fabric by providing whole range of devices and systems across the span of 400 gig. We are already leader, 800 gig platforms, and so on. While doing that, we are also making sure it's easier to extend those, just like the data center approach. We are providing similar ability for people to be able to build massively scalable fabric by offering elasticity and being able to automate via automation, build capacity very easily, right? Because all of the traffic that comes from enterprises, consumers is getting aggregated in metro. We also have convergence between wireline and wireless networking coming together there. So what we are doing we're calling it a new cloud metro, because what we're taking is principles of the cloud native infrastructure, cloud native architecture, and we are applying them to both disaggregation based on cups where you separate out the control plane and user plane, but as well as aggregation of the traffic. And with 5G, it's important to be able to use the metro as a place to aggregate all of the traffic while supporting disaggregated architectures. So together, this new cloud metro concept is completely cloud native. It supports virtualization, it supports disaggregation, and that will allow the customers to have lots of choices and to mix and match different types of infrastructure to deliver cloud-like metro environment.
That's great, Raj. And obviously our second pillar is a cloud-first platform. And I'm not sure if everyone fully understands the scope of this. So maybe if you could explain cloud-first and more particular, why it's so important to service providers.
Cloud providers are investing in this massively scalable fabric we talked about, our new cloud metro. It's important for them to also be able to create elasticity and capacity by using cloud-based architecture principles. So by cloud first, what we mean is that any platform we are trying to provide, we think of it first as a cloud native architecture. So for example, for telco cloud, we are providing cloud native Contrail-based overlay networking, Abstract-based fabric management, which comes with closed-loop automation, right? We are also doing the similar things with respect to support for VNFs as well as containerized network functions and how they could be deployed very easily in any environment using cloud-native architecture. So that's what we mean by cloud first.
And then obviously the third solution area, really is more related to how we're partnering with our service provider customers as part of their managed enterprise service offerings. And quite frankly, helping their enterprise customers through their own digital transformation journeys. Tell us a little bit about our solutions in that area, Raj.
So I think we started, as I said, with a Wi-Fi solution, which is already cloud managed. And the way it works is that you connect every device to the cloud to provide constant runtime telemetry. That gives you constant operational insights into every device, every system, every network. You use that operational telemetry to feed into a machine learning engine to be able to derive insights so that you can start predicting failures, you can start detecting anomalies and failures, but also more proactively using predictive analytics, you can also start taking remediating actions automatically. So you really form a closed loop automation which is purely cloud managed, not only for Wi-Fi, but we extended that to campus and branch networking for wired LAN. We extended that to SD-WAN, and we also are now extended that to our security access points such as SRX, VSRX, and so on. So together you get a cloud managed, AI-driven, automation-based operations which are allowing you to develop and deploy self-healing networks. So if you're a service provider, you take all that bundle, you can start offering that to your enterprise customers to accelerate their digital transformation and still be secure and be very agile with respect to and efficient with respect to how you operate the network.
Raj, of course, we can't ignore the two experience enablers that you mentioned that cross all of the three solution pillars, and that's connected security and intelligent automation. Maybe if we start with connected security, give us your perspective in terms of our approach to security.
Sally, as you said, security is very important to our customers. Service providers want to make sure that infrastructure as well as the managed services they offer to the enterprises is secure. But many times they are worried that introducing the security such as advanced threat protection, malware detection will slow down traffic, and that will impact the performance SLS they offer. So one of the things we invested is in security should not be an afterthought. It should be integrated into your products. But more importantly, security should continue to operate at line rate. So we have invested in our custom chips as well as software to make sure that any security mechanisms we introduce for advanced threat protection, encryption, and so on, simply works at line rate. Our customers, service providers, get the best possibility with respect to being able to offer secure networking to their customers.
That's great. Thank you, Raj. And then, of course, the second experience enabler, also important, that's intelligent automation. If you could maybe expand on our approach there as well, that would be great.
So I think, Sally, as we discussed earlier, one of the two experience enablers for our three pillars we mentioned is intelligent automation. And we have been investing heavily in many aspects of intelligent automation. Let me start with one example at a time and expand on it. So first of all, our Paragon Automation Suite, where we have invested heavily to automate all the aspects of network design, capacity planning, day zero installation, day one operations, day two upgrades, and so on. And while doing that, we are applying artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques so that we can do AI-driven predictability, AI-driven insights, inferences for closed loop automation, and for self-remediation kind of experiences. In addition, we have moved our overlay networking solution to cloud native, where again, we provide automation in terms of both control plane as well as lifecycle management. Apstra, as I mentioned earlier, is our fabric management solution, which is multi-vendor, but more importantly, it's intent-based. So you specify the intent in terms of how the network should look, how it should operate, and Apstra makes sure that by continuous monitoring, it makes sure that the network does not deviate from the intent. If it deviates, it corrects itself. Our Mist AI Marvis engine is another great example. Using that, we are providing automation across all the aspects of cloud managed solutions for Wi-Fi, wired networks, SD-WAN, and security access. And finally, not last but not the least, is our investment in RAN intelligence controller for 5G O-RAN networks. RAN intelligence controller is the new operating system or the brain of the radio access network. Using the RIC and AI ML-based XApps, we are trying to provide automation with respect to how you optimize the spectrum used by the RAN, how you optimize services provided by RAN, and so on. So the combination of whole variety of things we are doing at Juniper are all contributing to this stuff you call intelligent automation.
So let's sort of change gears a bit and talk about openness, Raj. So, our industry is pivoting pretty hard to multi-vendor collaboration, disaggregation, open ecosystems, etc. And, to be honest with you, that's been pretty much at the center of Juniper's, history as well. And we've led all of the above. What are we doing these days to continue that leadership, to continue to remain relevant? And maybe talk a little bit about some of the standards bodies that we've been particularly engaged with to move this along.
Yeah, so I just said, right, Juniper has been a challenger in the internet industry right from the start. And if you look at IETF, which probably sets the internet standards the most, Juniper has been at the forefront of the open standards developed by IETF, starting with MPLS, RSVP, then recently segment routing, all of the network management standards such as OpenConf, NetConf, and so on. So I think it's in our DNA to encourage open ecosystems, because not every player or each single player cannot provide all the parts. And having such an open ecosystem allows us to fairly compete and still continue to innovate. So we have done similar things in other areas. For example, Linux Network Foundation. We have been one of the leaders of software-defined networking standards. We have been recently been contributing to their blueprints for edge cloud networking, right? We are doing more and more in the 5G O-RAN, which is the alliance formed by telcos to create very open ecosystem for radio access network. We are leading working groups there in the area of transport slicing, in the area of many interfaces for RIC, as well as XApps and so on. So I think we'll continue to, and I think another example I want to give of the open ecosystem is that our Apstra-based fabric automation. It's the first ever open fabric management solution that spans multiple vendors. It's completely vendor agnostic. It allows you to build a closed loop automation for 3-stage, 5-stage flow fabrics, independent of which vendor is involved. Why do we support that? Because we really believe that being open, we make the customers have a very sort of easy access to any vendor while taking advantage of Juniper's software innovation. So I think we'll continue to do that. And we do believe that encouraging the open ecosystem is good for us as well as everyone else.
So Raj, really great in terms of the details around the 3 solution pillars and our experience enablers with security and intelligent automation. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about how these solutions truly deliver outcomes that matter to our service provider customers and their customers, based on some of the market dynamics we discussed earlier in the conversation.
So as I said, Apstra-based fabric automation that we are delivering today, it provides you intent-based framework by which you can specify what your network fabric should look like and how it should operate. And now using closed loop automation, by continuously monitoring that fabric, Apstra makes sure that the designed intent is actually followed and any deviation from the intent is automatically corrected. So that's one. Similarly, in the area of secure and assured experiences I talked about, we have now actual data points. For example, the Paragon automation suite I talked about has one pass called active assurance. That is now able to reduce the number of false service deployment rates by almost 13%. In the area of security, for example, there's an independent lab called ICSA lab, which has done a study of our malware detection and found that we are able to detect malware in traffic 100% of the time without any false positives. That's an incredible result. You would not expect. So I think those are the two areas where we can say we have active outcome-based results for secure and assured experiences. Now, if you talk about efficiency, we talked about in the context of cloud-based infrastructure, people are expecting efficiency, agility, resiliency. We invest heavily in custom chips so that we can deliver much better performance, much better security, and so on. So you're getting a six-fold increase in power, energy, power performance, and efficiency, which is important for the environment and being responsible with respect to green computing. Finally, what we have done is that we have built-in security because of our custom chips. So for example, we support MACsec and IPsec. So MACsec allows you to do layer 2 end-to-end security, including encryption. So together, I think this is an example of how we can also not only delivering high performance, assurance, security, but also on-demand efficiency with respect to being responsible for the environment.
Fantastic, Raj. Again, thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. And for everyone listening in, listen, if you want to know more about Juniper's service provider strategy, I invite you to go to juniper.net/service provider, and you'll find a little bit more information about what we've spoken about today. And thank you. Thanks everyone for listening in. And Raj, thanks always for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Sally.